I'd like to reconvene this April 15th, 2019 session of the West Windsor Township Council. We already know that we have been adequately noticed and we've had a closed session. So would you all join us in the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Gay, will you call the roll?
Sure. Jeevers? Here. Hamilton?
Yes.
Manzera?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Zhang?
Here.
All right, we have no ceremonial matters today, so is anyone signed up for public comment?
Mr. Hinsdale?
Okay.
John Hinsdale, 38 Quaker Road. The First Amendment of our Constitution reads in part, quote, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech, unquote. Let's save that thought aside. I'll be coming back to it later. The First Amendment also allows us to assemble peaceably, as we are doing here. No reason required. This here is a public meeting. Anyone can come with no obligation to explain why they're here. Back on April 1st, a commentator belonging to and claiming to speak on behalf of a union of law enforcement officers at this podium called for the resignation of one of our elected representatives, a councilwoman, so that the councilwoman's perceived points of view could be, quote, acknowledged and quelled, unquote. Yeah, you heard that right, quelled. And I say perceived points of view because this demand was in response to statements and actions for which there is no substantiation, that were explicitly disavowed by our councilwoman, and that were refuted by at least one objective party. But let's not get bogged down in detail. The union leader rightly denounced negative stereotypes that plague law enforcement. One such stereotype is that law enforcement officers sometimes know surprisingly little about the laws they are sworn to enforce. That seems to be the case here. The union members should know well that they cannot enforce any law that prohibits our councilwoman from saying how she feels. That's because no such laws exist. Why not? Because the First Amendment does not allow them to exist. And now I'll read it again. It never gets old. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Our police selflessly put themselves in harm's way and work hard to serve and protect us and to enforce the laws. But they need to stick to laws that actually exist. There is no law authorizing them to quell anybody's point of view. My late father marched through mud, dodged bullets, and liberated a forced labor camp in Nordhausen, Nazi Germany, in World War II. I'll be damned if his son, 75 years later, is going to sit silent while a law enforcement officer here in America at a public government meeting and in the context of overthrowing an election decision, talks about thoughts and words being quelled. As for the union leader's call for the resignation of our duly elected representative, I simply cannot believe this request was actually authorized by the union's members, and no one should believe that until it is clear that each and every member approved of it. In the meantime, I invite everyone to join me in continuing to freely speak their mind and in safely ignoring the unfounded, un-American, useless, and ineffectual comments made by the union leader from this podium back on April 1st. Finally, I note that our mayor and public safety director, Hemant Marathe, sat silent here for these remarks on April 1st, and so would appear to agree with the union leader that the mere voicing of opinions is a, quote, detriment to public safety, unquote. Mayor Marathe understands neither our Constitution nor what is a threat to public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Hinsdale. Anyone else?
Ms. Nagy?
Ms. Huber has a list, and people will come up in that order, and then when the list is finished, anyone else may come up.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam President, and members of Council. My name is Melissa Nagy, President of West Windsor PBA Local 271. I'm here tonight to set the record straight. On March 18th, 8 PBA members were at the West Windsor Town Council meeting to support K-9 Officer Zika and the entire K-9 program, which is extremely effective for our community. Subsequent to the March 18th council meeting, Councilwoman Hamilton told our business administrator, Marlena Schmidt, off the record and after the meeting, that she was concerned and intimidated by the off-duty police presence at the meeting. We, as off-duty police officers, have every right to be present. Ms. Schmidt felt Ms. Hamilton's comments were so inflammatory that she immediately approached Mayor Marathe and Police Chief Garofalo in the municipal building lobby and brought them into a separate room explaining what was mentioned to her. At the April 1st council meeting, I spoke on behalf of the PBA. to advise the town council of biased statements made by Councilwoman Hamilton. Councilwoman Hamilton then stated on the record that she spoke to Mike Herbert and Marlena Schmidt as to why there was a police presence in the room. To deflect from the facts, that evening on social media, Councilwoman Hamilton stated, "At the last council meeting, there were 8 police officers lined up against the back wall to ensure that I did not question the canine expenditure again. As a PBA union, we would never question a council person's right to investigate or question any budgetary item. We support Councilwoman Hamilton in all council member questions pertaining to the police budget. Only Councilwoman Hamilton made the rousing statements about the off-duty police presence, and this was why only Councilwoman Hamilton was called upon to apologize and resign. Instead of crafting a story on social media to explain her statements, which include, and I quote, "I believe this kind of intimidation is inappropriate. I will not stop asking questions, nor will I apologize for doing my job, nor will I resign. It is my responsibility as your councilwoman to ask the questions, and I will continue to do so regardless of the intimidation." This is the false narrative portrayed about the West Windsor Police Department on a public social media forum. It would have been more appropriate to discuss her concerns with the chief of police or the mayor. If any of the aforementioned statements are in dispute, I suggest the questions be asked directly to the mayor, Chief Garofalo, or Ms. Schmidt this evening. Thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you.
Allison, may I take my 3 minutes now?
Yes, I think that since you were called out by name, you
Yeah.
can invoke the point of personal privilege. If
Yeah,
you
and
had
I-
not been called out by name and it had been merely a generic statement about council people, that would be different. But please speak.
Thank you, and I apologize for keep doing this out of order. I don't even know where to begin. I didn't go in a private room with Mayor Marate, did I? I think there was an allegation that I went in a room with you and Chief Garofalo to have a conversation about any of this. I did not.
You didn't have a conversation with me, and when it's my public comment, I will make comment. You didn't have a conversation with me.
So, I mean, the stories get fantastic, and I'm fine with it. I think one of the things that I had forgotten along the way, I was so in shock from Ms. Nagy's comments April 1st. I'm not quite as in shock with them now because I'm used to them. I think April 1st I was really taken aback. And then I remembered that I think I need to have a fair sense of humor about this role and keep in perspective the fact that we are charged with a job that is difficult and that requires us to ask difficult questions. And again, I will tell you that I will not stop asking those questions, nor should the taxpayers want me to. So I welcome you back to these council meetings, assuring you that my sense of humor is back. Unless someone else wants my resignation, maybe we can get back to work.
Thank you.
Kathy.
Frank Bowell, 14 Stanford Place. Just a point of clarification. What Ms. Nagy said was that you had a private conversation with the mayor and Ms. Marlena Schmidt. She didn't say it took place in a secret room or a special place, just they had a private conversation. Then what took place was Ms. Schmidt and the mayor then grabbed the chief of police, who was outside in the lobby with most of the members. They went into a separate room, had the conversation, which was then relayed back. So at no point was Ms. Nagy saying that you were in some special room, something going on. This wasn't a joke, this wasn't something special. I can tell you, I don't know what you said. I don't know what Marlena said. I only know that what was said to us. Okay, so somewhere in the middle, something else took place. And that's why Melissa came here today, Ms. Nagy, to say, hey, Marlena was there, but she didn't speak up last time. The mayor was there, didn't speak up last time. You were there, you said it didn't happen whatsoever. Township attorney said, I didn't hear a thing, which I'm going to say maybe he didn't hear a thing, but doesn't mean it didn't take place. So that's kind of what they're trying to get at. Okay, it didn't happen in some kind of secret area. That's all.
Madam President, if I could just respond to that. I didn't say I didn't hear a thing. I said I didn't hear what the statement was from the member of the public about what was said to me.
Okay. I just have to say that I was completely taken aback by what I heard 2 weeks ago, and I was surprised, to say the least. And I could only ask Aisha to respond because I was stunned. I would certainly have expected that, though everybody has a right to speak up in this forum, and we welcome everyone speaking up in this forum. The more I hear about the he said, she said, and it was in a room, no, it was not in a room, it was in a hallway, the more I wish that this could have been talked about in a less formal situation, because I don't think that the animosity I hear is really what's felt, either by anyone up here or anyone out there. We're all West Windsor, we all work together, and we all should continue working together. Sorry, Chair's ability to stick comment in. Do we have another public
I have a
comment?
couple more. Kathy Gu? Yep, you can hand it to me, and I'll pass.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kathy Gu, or Xianyue Gu. I am the resident
Can you
of-
state your address also, please?
Yes, I'm ready now, doing now. 69 Southfield Road.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, council members, and my fellow West Windsor residents. Today, I would like to express my concerns on safety issues on Southfield Road, the road in front of my house. And let me list some facts. From 2016 to 2019, 3 car accidents have happened due to the same reason. The driver was speeding and did not anticipate the road curving ahead. 1 car lost control and flipped in the air. 1 car hit a tree. And last Friday morning, 1 car hit my mail post. 2 schoolgirls were hit by cars when crossing Southfield Road at the entrance of Southfield Meadow. 1 girl had a concussion and broken bones. 1 boy was hit by a car when crossing Southfield Road between Grover Middle School and the village school. And I have witnessed many speeding cars when there were people walking, biking along the road. There was a lot of accidents given Southfield Road is a semi-busy road. Imagine instead of the mail post, there were children waiting for the buses, joggers running along the road, or bikers riding in the bike lane. This is a serious problem that needs to be addressed. As illustrated in the figure 1 on the page to second page, I illustrate the 3 car accidents happened at different times in a day with drivers of different age groups, indicating there are not enough speed control and warning signs in place. Therefore, if you can see the figure 2, I propose 3 steps. First, eliminate the 50 speed zone on the road, which is between South 571 and the bridge. Because that's a short road, and the 2 speed limit just causes the driver's confusion. Second, install the road alignment change signs along the northbound side of the road, which indicating the curving ahead. Third, place temporary or permanent sign on speed bumps to enforce the speed limit. I know Township doesn't like the speed bumps, but we can install temporarily. That's just to raise awareness. And also to ensure our students' safety when crossing Southfield Road, I propose to install pedestrian crosswalk system with an easy push button and the flashing lights. Because sometimes in the morning, it's pretty dark in winter. And thank you for listening, and may our town become better and better. And I have some co-signer, and one more, my neighbor, she's here to support me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor, can we send these suggestions to our traffic experts?
Your
Because
traffic expert is sitting right next to you, so you came at an appropriate meeting. And we will certainly take a look at it. And the correct, appropriate statement is the EMS folks don't like speed bumps. It's not the township. Township has no opinion on speed bumps, but they don't like it because it makes it difficult for fire engines and ambulances to go over. But we'll certainly look at, that's a high hurdle to cross, I will tell you. Even, I mean, they are reluctant to put it even inside small developments. But we'll certainly take a look at the speed limit. That's the easiest thing to do, and I believe that's a township road. So we have jurisdiction, so we'll certainly take a look at it.
we should look at the crosswalk, too.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's safe routes to school or something. Anyway, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Constantine?
Hi, how are you? I'm talking here with respect to, I think it's called, Constantine Carderas, and I live at 31 Ketley Place, apartment number 6. And that's an affordable housing for low and medium income folks. And wonderful place. I've been there for almost 20 years and wound up there by way of marrying my wife, who at the time was single. And we've raised our 7 children there. So really a great thing to have this kind of a opportunity for folks to have. However, as I understand, it's coming up for the renewal, 30-year renewal. 30 years has passed, and they're considering another 30 years. And my comments here is that I would ask you all, my background's finance and economics, and from that background, I would ask you all to consider making the conversion or the extension optional, where folks may opt to either do that or not. And the reason why is because the preferred model for affordable housing is not to cluster all those folks into one place, but to have them interspersed with other folks. What that does is it brings the whole community up, as opposed to one part of the community being viewed different than another part. In particular, this particular facility, when it was originally built, the electrical wiring and the boxes were substandard, and consequently, you know, for instance, my own, I upgraded it, but most of the folks have not upgraded it. And if you add another 30 years to that, you're basically, you know, voting for a fire hazard. Whereas if you let folks turn it over so that people who move in will upgrade it, that will take care of that major problem that you guys are going to be facing. You really don't want to be sitting here, you know, 5-7 years from now and considering whether your insurance covered the death of all these people in a building because it burned down, and yet you all didn't do anything about it now. That's my vote, or my opinion.
Thank you.
I mean,
Jeremy, as our affordable housing attorney, do you have anything to say about the state of the electricity, or?
Yeah, I thought that's a very interesting comment. I hadn't heard that before. Now, obviously, what's before you, as Mr. I'm sorry, could I have the spelling of your last name again?
Sure, K-A-R-D-A-R-A-S.
Yeah, as Mr. Kaderis indicated, he was asking whether it could be optional in terms of an extension. The way the papers are set forth before you, there are already a number of units, I think 17, that have already been extended because they were resold during the control period, and the new form deed restriction required by the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls was put in place, which said a minimum of 30 years and thereafter until terminated. We have in our fair share plan, which hits the obligation, you know, right on the money, in the sense that the obligation is 1,500 units, and we intend to satisfy that with exactly 1,500 units in credits, which includes extensions not only for the 17, but for the remaining 20 affordable units in Windsor Haven. Having said that, though, the electrical issue that was raised, I mean, that sounds like a serious issue. We do have monies in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we have to use for affordability assistance purposes. This probably could fit within that category, and it might, and it's a substantial amount of money. And I think it very well would be worthwhile look into, if the council chooses to go ahead with the extensions, of exploring how serious this problem is and whether the town should be basically giving grants for the upgrading of the electrical and the affordable units at Windsor Haven. I think it would be very, very good use of monies.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because as a member of the Affordable Housing Committee, we look at how to make affordable housing more affordable, and certainly upgrading the electrical would make the affordable housing more affordable and safer, and we could think of some way of helping the people who've already done it as well. But I think that that would be the way to go, given that we need the affordability. But thank you very much for having brought this to our attention. And we, as a township, agree with you about interspersing affordable units with market rate units. We have required that in everything, I believe, in this century.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Andy Bromberg, 24 Providence Drive. I was not at the physical meeting 2 weeks ago on April 1st, but I was watching it leisurely from my couch. And I was shocked and amazed by what was said, calling for a councilwoman to apologize and resign. The passion that she had and the belligerence amazed me. I probably could say, and everyone in this room knows that I come here many times over the years. I've never heard us say anything negative about the police department. There's people in this audience that I disagree with, but we're friends. We talk about how fast we should do redevelopment. Should we have the microgrid? Should we not have it? Should we, something to do with gun control? We had some, the class 3 stuff. But never did we ever say anything negative about the police department. And also, I'm happy with the mayor, I'm happy with the council people. Their primary job is to look at every line item, every budget period, and make sure that we're spending stuff wisely. Also, our taxes are very high, and I'm not that rich of a guy. And please watch our expenses, question and double question. And while I've never said anything negative about the police department, I do remember there was some incident maybe about 10 years ago about helicopter lessons, and we didn't have a helicopter. That happened. So why not question those responses? And I've never said anything negative about our police department. I see them at a lot of events. I know several of them, and we fully support them. What I'm recommending, and what I heard tonight, was like a doubling down. And please, I'm going to try to do this. Please, we love you. If you have guns, and you protect us, and you put your life on it, please, if you think there was a perceived slight, talk to Chief Garofalo. Let's not have us against you guys, because we need you, and you guys do a great job. But please, I know all of them for many years, and they didn't really mean to slight you. We just want to look at the expenses, but we really support you. Please, maybe meet internally and discuss it, because there's nothing, we support you, and these are, as a matter of fact, I voted for these people, and we didn't really vote for you, but you also put your lives on the line for us. So, you both make West Windsor a great place, and continue to do it. And let's maybe forget about the incident, and, have some nice event, that's all.
Okay, good evening. John Church, 11 Princeton Place. Just to change the subject a little bit, the subject of affordable housing trust funds came up, and I've got a comment on the resolution RO89 that is on the agenda tonight. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund, as you know, it's funded by builders who make contributions when they do developments. And it's pretty substantial. Starting from 2012, we've had anywhere from $1.6 to $2.1 million in this trust fund. It varies up and down through the years. And as of the end of 2018, we had about $1.6 million in this trust fund. And that's available, obviously, for use with affordable housing projects. Anyway, this resolution is proposing that the council bind itself to supplement the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in some way, shape, or form, whether by bonding or by budget resolutions. Now, I am not aware that one council can bind any future council to do anything except pay off existing bonds. That's an obligation that you have that carries on from council to council. You have to do that. But as far as one council binding a future council to do anything in terms of budgets or even issuing future bonds, I think is probably outside of what you have the power to do. Now, I will defer to legal comments on that, but I've heard that before, that one council cannot bind a future council except to fund and pay interest on bonds that one council did pass. So you can do that, but I don't think you can say anything about next year's budget. You may have a different council in place. You can't do that as far as I'm aware, and I stand corrected if that's not the case. So be that as it may, on the now therefore be it resolved part of this resolution, it says you can do this, cover these shortfalls through appropriations in the annual budget, bonding, or any other legal means, with the understanding that any future affordable housing funding that becomes available may be used to reimburse the township for the costs incurred. I would suggest that you change may to shall, because if you're going to pass this anyway, I don't know whether you will or not, I think it's obligatory upon you to reimburse, to use any exterior funding that's available to reimburse the township for the costs incurred. In fact, the Fair Housing Act does say specifically in one part that townships are not required themselves to finance affordable housing. Now, this may be a little different because it's a rehab and so forth, and maybe some little differences there, but still I would suggest that you change the may in the last sentence to shall if you're going to pass this resolution. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Jerry, do you think you could address why we are passing this resolution?
Yeah, I'll address that and also respond to the comments that we just made. Yeah. First, in terms of the resolution, this was not only required by the settlement agreement, but it is required across the board in the state. It either comes out of the Fair Housing Act itself or the car rules. But this is a standard provision that's required. And if we litigate it, actually, rather than settled, we would have been required to do this anyway. Now, just to underscore a point, The two areas that are identified in the cover memo and resolution are the rehabilitation program and the special needs program. Special needs were going to be things like group homes and things like that. We were 32 credits and units short, and special needs was to address that. We've already now come up with an additional 26 credits out of the 32, and I have no doubt we'll come up with more, and we will not need a special needs program at all. I think the chances of having a shortfall in funding that would have to be satisfied by bonding for that is minimal at the very best. With respect to the rehab program, the way it's being set up is a maximum, it's a loan that basically over a 10-year period becomes a grant, is $8,000 in soft costs, $2,000 in hard costs, $10,000. There's 27 rehabilitation units in town, which have in theory been identified as being occupied by low and moderate income households, and that are substandard. I say in theory because no one's actually identified the units. This is all a statistical analysis. We have that $270,000. So I would be amazed if we ever had to go beyond that. I don't see any reason why we would. And frankly, I'd be surprised if we ever used the full $270,000 anyway. And that's in part because as part of the $8,000 grant for soft costs and $2,000 for hard costs, a property owner would, and these would be for units that are not now affordable, would have to put in place for 10 years a lien providing that the property be affordable for that 10-year period with a maximum price limit that would be the same as an affordable unit. And I find it hard to believe that many people would see that as a good deal for them. Now, in terms of Mr. Church's comment about the shall, I don't really have a problem with that.
I didn't think it was a good idea because I think it would obligate us to use the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for that purpose, while we might have a different purpose that we wish to use it for, and I think it would be too binding, but I'm just a planner, not a lawyer.
No, that's a very good point, because even with the may, obviously it's optional, and we can choose to use it in the manner of reimbursement if the decision of council was that that's what should be done. In terms of binding a future governing body, well, as I say, I mean, this is required as a matter of law. We have to do this. And I would defer to Mike in terms of other instances, whether what Mr. Church described is accurate, if you want to get into that. Obviously, for ordinances, that would bind, future governing bodies.
No, I agree with your position, Jerry.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to talk about something?
Veronica Mina, 41 Gulfstone Drive. The reason that I am here is because what happened at the meeting of April 1st should certainly be concerning to all West Windsor residents. On April 1st, Ms. Nagy, the PBA representative, unfairly attacked and maligned Ms. Hamilton. In the past year, the mayor has led several attacks against Ms. Hamilton on Facebook. It is sad that he has provoked such a division in our community of them against us. He clearly does not possess the qualities of a leader. He wants to rule under the premises of divide and conquer. Famous words of Julius Caesar. We live in a democracy where the dissent should be welcomed by our leaders. These attacks on Ms. Hamilton, led by the mayor and Ms. Manzari, are undemocratic and dangerous. In a democracy, the police power lies in the hands of the civilians, and the mayor should applaud Ms. Hamilton for asking the questions, instead of cynically questioning her motives every time she questions the police policy. His political opportunism is pathetic. I applaud Ms. Hamilton for doing her job. That was what she was elected to do. I will encourage her to keep on asking questions and not become a rubber stamper. In November, the voters will have another chance to speak and shift the powers to be. All these actions are being closely observed and monitored by the community. It is very sad that Ms. Nagy did not double-check her facts. Today, I was telling my oldest son the importance of having true and accurate facts before speaking, because if not, the person's credibility suffers. I am afraid this is what happened to Ms. Nagy and the PBA. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hamilton, for doing what you do.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we do have time for administration comments.
Yeah, I'm going to split my comments between two different sections. I'll comment on the public comment first, then give it to Marlena, and then I have three other issues. Those of you who know me will realize I hate to do these comments for two reasons. First, I've always said life is too short, don't pick fights that are not necessary. And the second reason, I see 4 lawyers in the audience on the clock. So, 3 for us, 1 for Princeton, and 1 township employee. So I always watch my dollars as a person, so I'll keep it short. I have talked to both Ms. Nagy and Ms. Hamilton about what happened on April 1st and what has happened since then. Just to clarify, Ms. Hamilton didn't make comments to me, she made comments to another township employee who relayed those comments to me and the chief when we were together. So what Ms. Nagy said is a correct representation of what was relayed to us. Whether she made that comments or not, I cannot make comment on that. I did talk to Ms. Nagy also and suggested it's better if she doesn't make that comment. I mean, it's a First Amendment right. She works for the township, so I can only say so many things to her. But she has every right to make whatever comment she wants. Veronica just took a lot of shots at me and left. She's welcome to do that. She has every right to do that. Whatever she said, other than saying resign, mayor, she called every other bad name in the book. And not just once, but she has been repeatedly saying that for a number of meetings. And people have called her to the podium and applauded her for doing that. And she has misrepresented more facts than anybody else in this town. So everybody has a First Amendment right. I'm not going to take anything. I did tell Ms. Hamilton that I wish those comments were not made. I don't know what she said. I wasn't privy to it. The reaction was in response to whatever was conveyed to us or whatever we understood. Now, every person has a right to make whatever comments they want. It's a free society. And I hope both sides will agree to disagree on this fact, whatever was said, and we will move on. And I can certainly say that comments were not in response to questions that were asked at the council meeting. This is a tactic that I really resent. Every time somebody asks a question and you disagree with them, they say, oh, you are misrepresenting them because they are asking questions. And that has happened to me too. There are ways to ask questions and there are destructive ways to ask questions. And this was not, I can assure you based on my conversation with Ms. Nagy that this was not in response to your questions about the dogs or questions about the drones, questions about anything. I mean, you can ask questions. I've been on record as saying, I will give you a proposal. If you want to vote it down, vote it down. My life doesn't change. Whether you have a drone or a dog, my life is equally happy or unhappy. Neither dog nor drone makes any difference to me, personally. So our job as a council people and mayor is to vote the best way you feel about an issue and move on. And not, if you don't want them to second guess what your motives are, we shouldn't second guess somebody else's motives. Let it be where it may be. So I just hope that we don't spend more time and energy. People are going to disagree on this issue till end of earth, and let it be where it is. So, thank you. So let Marlena make comments, then I'll make other comments.
I have a couple of announcements tonight. Mercer County will be reopening the Alexander Road Bridge tomorrow, April 16th, in the afternoon in time for evening rush hour. Weekend closures will likely still occur for PSC&G between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, with the exception of no work on Communiversity, which will be held Sunday, April 28th. The Department of Public Works is collecting brush and yard debris in Zone 3, and that's all I have.
Okay, I have three different comments on that. First, I just want to commend everybody and thank them for making Samantha Josephson's service go as smoothly as it really did. Almost 1,200 people attended the service, and it was a tough thing, and a lot of people worked to make it go really smoothly. It was led by West Windsor Police, West Windsor DPW staff, West Windsor EMS people, East Windsor Police, Robbinsville Police, and staff from Mercer County Sheriff's Office. It was really good to see all of them work together to make it a success. And even when so many cars came and so many people came, it worked really smoothly, and it's a credit to everybody involved, all police officers, all EMS people involved. And it's the first time I saw our drone used in live action. And if I had any doubts, it proved that the investment that West Windsor made was worth it. The drone could keep track of everything that was going on and do it far more efficiently than any human being could have possibly done. The second thing is the lottery for Project Freedom is going to happen on April 24th, Wednesday. Anybody who is interested, I don't know if there's still time to enter the lottery, but there are more people who have applied than slots available, so lottery will take place. And then thanks to Sonia Gawas and Kavita Jagirdar, West Windsor is going to participate in NAMI Walk on May 5th at 1 o'clock at the ETS campus. So I hope whoever can make it join the West Windsor team and show up and support NAMI in their great work they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member comments. YC?
YZ first? Well,
Yes,
I
it's
thought
your
last.
turn to go first.
It'll be a little bit long, so be patient with me. A couple of things. Number one, I'm very happy to see Mrs. Gu, who just stepped out. She reached out to me about the issues, so I advised her and encouraged her to come to the council meeting and prepare her information, the historical accidents, and also her thought how we can improve it. So I'm happy she was here, and she also got support from her neighbors. And I'm hoping our administration will take a look at it. And on the same note, I got another message from another citizen who couldn't come to the meeting today. I also encouraged her to come here to report it, but she couldn't today. So this is Pine Line Road, around 113 and 143. There's a pond. There is a flooding going on right now, and there's also a light pole, like broken and temporarily fixed. And she said it has not been fixed for some time. I can give you the picture later on. Yeah.
Please do.
Okay, yeah. And also she mentioned there has been quite a few power outages recently, whether it's related or not to the pond, we don't know, but she just mentioned that along the way. So that's another thing, yeah. Now, pull back up a little bit. I don't know if all of you knows when we, United States of America, finished the Transcontinental Railroad. It's actually 150 years ago. So this year marks the 150 years of celebration, of completion of the historical Transcontinental Railroad completion. So there will be a big celebration in Utah on May 10th. I mentioned it just because there is a historical situation when there are the Chinese American immigrants and railroad workers. They were part of the team, and yet they were excluded from attending the completion and celebration ceremony. Of course, that's 150 years ago. And now, later on in 1884, the Congress passed a law to exclude the Chinese from immigrating to the United States. It's the so-called Chinese Exclusion Act. It later on got, of course, turned down. But if you think about how much progress we have made in 150 years, it's truly amazing. And where we had a constitutional discrimination, here we go, and the prejudice and all that. thankfully, these things are long gone. So we're grateful for the progress we have made in 150 years, to the point, give you two examples maybe. One example is that yesterday evening, for the first time, there was a Chinese-American presidential candidate. His name is Andrew Yang. He appeared on CNN yesterday, 7 p.m. It's historical for me as a Chinese-American, but I think for all people of United States of America, meaning, we have now fully embraced the diversity of this wonderful country that is built, for the most part, by and for the immigrants. So now look back to the history, what can we do to build even stronger country and also the stronger community, I believe, is how we can work together, is to accept one another. So to that point, another example, a couple months ago, when after the shooting, the mosque shooting in New Zealand, and there was a virtual event, I think Alex and I went from the council, and the mayor went there too, our wonderful police chief was there. And the chief made a statement that really moved me and the audience, and he said, God forbid, if this happened in our town, we're not going to be standing by you, we'll be standing in front of you. So this is how wonderful our community is. As a township, as a community, we are so much better than, forget about 150 years ago, right? So this is where I want to talk about the issue that was discussed earlier. As far as my personal impression of my fellow councilwoman, Aisha Hamilton, I think she's sincere in her motivation to check and balance the budget and everything else. But also, I would personally trust her. I wouldn't believe as a person she would have a prejudice over our wonderful police officer and the police force. At the same time, I understand maybe there could be a situation where if you have a story to tell from A to B to C to E, and by the time the fifth person tell you back, oftentimes the story gets changed. We all know that's a natural phenomenon. So I think in this case, my suggestion is strongly, and I actually called Aisha earlier today to say, have you got a chance to talk to our wonderful police department and PPA, and she said she had not got a chance. But I would encourage the two sides, have a direct dialogue and conversation. I think it's mostly misunderstanding, and because of misunderstanding, there could be a mistrust. So that's my personal advice. Right now, I think there is no more, thankfully, institutionalized prejudice and discrimination. But at the same time, we each are growing up based on our own growing up experiences. So we each are trapped in our own tunnel a little bit, so which is only natural. So it's very important for me to be able to open my own vision and eyes to accept the American democratic system when I came here, 30-some years ago. So I think this is what I believe strongly. And by the way, yesterday I also went to a township called Montville, New Jersey. That's the town that accepted the first group of Chinese American immigrants who were the railroad builders after they finished the railroad. They were the ones welcomed by that town, but not many other towns welcomed them at the point in time. So we went there as the Chinese American community members to show our appreciation. So looking back to history, I talked to my fellow Chinese American friends to say, now, looking at our country now, where are we going to stand in this history? Which side are you going to take? You're going to take the quote-unquote the better side, and then you will be memorized and grateful and thankful by the future generations to come, or otherwise. So with that train of thought, again, I strongly encourage a direct dialogue and communication. I believe strongly we can rise above the noise, which, by the way, is my technology company's tagline. I'm working for a technology company which is a security detection company. So in the security world, there's so much noise. I mean, because there's so much misinformation being passed around, right? So how do you work out, the signal out of noise? But I think rise above the noise, the best effective way is direct communication. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Virginia?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say everybody has First Amendment rights, not just people that Mr. Hinsdale agrees with. Everybody has First Amendment rights. Second of all, I want to state some facts. All council members asked questions about the budget, about the operational budget, about the capital budget. Every single one of us, all 5 of us, asked questions, as we're supposed to do. We all voted to delay the approval of the canine officer until we had additional information from the mayor. And then we all voted to approve it after we got that additional information. 5-0 votes on everything. So how somebody thought that they were being singled out for their particular vote or stance on something doesn't make sense if you look at those facts. Now, I personally have never felt threatened or bullied or intimidated by the police. I have worked closely with many members of the police department since I've come on council, and I ask a lot of questions with regard to the budget, and I ask a lot of questions with regard to just how things work, and I've never felt any type of bullying or intimidation at all. For Councilwoman Hamilton to say on Facebook that the police were here at a council meeting to bully the council or to bully her into approving the dog is not right, and it's completely unfair. It's especially ironic given that Councilwoman Hamilton encouraged people to come to a council meeting last year where she put forth a gun resolution, and she felt that there were 3 of us that weren't going to vote for it. And so she gathered a bunch of people to come to this council meeting to intimidate us to vote for her resolution. And let me tell you, there was intimidation that took place in that audience. Maybe she didn't ask people to come and intimidate us, but they did. There was name calling, there were threats, there were obscenities yelled, there was furniture thrown. One resident was so intimidated or scared or freaked out that they called the police to come. And after all of that behavior, Ms. Hamilton applauded those people for coming and speaking up. So I find it very ironic for her to say that she was bullied or intimidated by a bunch of people who came in plain clothes to sit in the room, not even close to her on her side of the room, across the room, didn't speak, didn't say a word, nothing. I find that pretty gross. That's all I'll say about that. And then the other thing that I want to say, I talk about, I get fired up about this all the time. I'm going to probably repeat it many, many more times. On my way over here, there was an ambulance that had its sirens on, had its lights flashing. I saw him coming, from very far away. It was on Clarksville Road on the straightaway. There were 3 cars that drove in front of this ambulance after they saw it coming and heard it coming. People, pull over. If you see a fire truck, a police car, or an ambulance, pull over and let them go. It could be one of your loved ones or you someday who needs those people to get there quickly. So let's get some better behavior going on in this town. I'm not very happy tonight. Thank you.
Aisha?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I'll take a minute. Wisey, thank you for your comments. I appreciate the sentiment behind it, but since we're in the midst of a PBA contract negotiation, I don't think it would be appropriate for me to be speaking with them directly, so I'm not going to do that. I don't know if all of you guys got the memo, but I'm not running for another election here, and that felt like a little bit of a political speech from Virginia, but that's fine too.
It was not. Let's stick to the facts. Don't assume you know what my motivations are. I was very clear about what I said, and they were all factual.
Absolutely fine. So we have a fairly lengthy agenda, so why don't we just get to work?
Linda?
I don't know how much more about this issue. Like, I was away on vacation, and all of a sudden, everything starts blowing up. But it's my fault.
Yes,
See, I went away for 1
here.
week this year, okay?
So you don't
That's
have
it.
to say anything.
Anyway, look, I want everybody to come together, okay? We have a great community. We have an excellent police force, excellent reputation, do a lot of community policing. You're doing good. We have also a mayor who works very hard. Every council member works very, very hard. Budget season, we ask questions, but not just in budget season, but I can tell you all year round. We catch typos, we catch things that just don't look right the way it reads. everything, and we speak up. Sometimes we email, sometimes we say it at a meeting, but that is what we do. We're the legislative branch up here. So don't ever be offended or get nervous about us asking questions. It's just our job. And we're proud of what you do, and I'm proud of it at the council. I just don't want to see everybody at each other's throats anymore. So I'm hoping tonight that we can sort of move forward on this and just have a better understanding of everyone. And hopefully in the future, these things come up. I think it's always best to get together behind the scenes and talk rather than getting everybody involved, and the public also starting to get involved and throwing verbal punches all over the place. I don't think that's good for the community. So hopefully we can move on, sort of have a kumbaya moment here. A few things, issues. Alexander Road Bridge was closed. I noticed Friday, I think it was Friday evening, I was out on Route 1. There are cars that are cutting through the gas station, Route 1 and Washington Road. One car from New York, right in front of me, cuts through the gas station, makes a right, onto Washington Road. Another car, Pennsylvania, cut through the gas station and then tried to get through the circle a lot quicker. So when it's rush hour, it always backs up, but when the Alexander Road Bridge is backed up, there is a lot of traffic there. So I don't know if there's any police presence at some point, but people, I saw 2 people within a few minutes illegally cut through the gas station. As far as Southfield Road safety, also Francis Gusick, if we can give it to the township engineer, it's budget season, so maybe some of this can also, be addressed more quickly. Measles outbreak. I looked on our website. I didn't see anything on what people should do regarding getting shots or seeing a doctor or any of that, but it just seems to be getting worse, this outbreak. So I don't know if there's any place to get free shots, or you just should go to your doctor, but maybe if there's a recommendation or some comments from the health department, because it's kind of nasty, and sometimes kids die from this, so we don't want to see anybody, adult or especially a child, get sick, but that's been on national news almost every night. Our sympathies to the family of Lynn Thornton, who passed away on Saturday, April 6th. Lynn, she was absolutely a tremendous leader, and I know many of you here, especially those who were involved in the senior center, knew her. She and her husband were instrumental in starting St. David the King Church here in West Windsor. She is a former WWP school board member, and eventually started working for the township and became director of the West Windsor Senior Center. And her efforts led to a national accreditation. So we are certainly very, very grateful for all of her work. I enjoy talking with her so much because we had this, similar backgrounds. We both served on the school board, and I was on council, and she worked for the township. So it was always a pleasure talking with her, and she will certainly be missed. This is what we Christians call Holy Week. So on Sunday, it'll be Easter Sunday. Just want to wish everybody a happy Easter. Friday night is Passover begins, so happy Passover to everyone. It's rather sad today. I don't know if anybody was watching the news, but the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris basically burned down. I think part of that structure, maybe will be saved, but it was it was unbelievable. Very, very sad. It's such a, an iconic cathedral in the world, and people, they used to have 13 million people a year would go through there, so certainly a loss there. I think that's it for now.
I join Linda in remembering Lynn Thornton. I too worked with her when she was on school board, and later when she was the head of the senior center. She was wonderful for West Windsor, and wherever she was, she will be missed. I also echo what I've heard from others. Let's try to get together. Let's try to be, as I said before, less confrontational in our disagreements. But at a certain point, it's time to move on. I also want to talk about something that really nice that happened. Friends of West Windsor Open Space got together the other Saturday, and 8 of us picked up about 250 pounds of, to be polite, crap that was along Clarksville Road. And we worked very hard through the brambles, and we really made a big difference. Unfortunately, I've been back there, and some people have decided that it just wasn't right without a few bottles and pieces of paper. But I think that FOWOS is to be commended, and I hope we will be able to schedule some more cleanups. And I think everybody should be looking at cleanup in the spring, because in the spring is before the brambles are truly mature, before the poison ivy comes up, so you can find a lot more at less peril to yourself. So I'd like to thank, besides me, Kristen Epstein and her son Justin, and Sylvia Kay and Andrew Cully and Elliot Kleiman and Yan Mei Wong and Lily Wei. We all worked very hard and to, I think, good effect. Gay, do you have anything else to add?
No, petitions are still available for council seats.
Well, that'll be true for quite a while.
Yes, ma'am.
We have no public hearings at this time. Consent agenda?
Okay, February 25th, 2019 budget session number 1 as amended, February 25th, 2019 closed session, February 26th, 2019 budget session 2 as amended, February 26th, 2019 closed session 2 as amended, March 4th, 2019 budget session 3 as amended, March 18th, 2019 business session as amended, March 25th, 2019 special business session, bills and claims.
Anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes, but March 18th I wasn't here, so
Okay.
no for the minutes. I
Yep.
can't do that.
Hamilton?
Same
Yes.
here, yeah.
Mazzara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. So we had 2 people who were not voting on the
March 18th.
March
Gotcha.
18th.
Got it.
Okay, recommendations from administration and council clerk.
2019 R082, supporting an accurate 2020 census. 2019 R083, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a grant agreement with Mercer at Play program, Round 2 for Conover Park improvements. 2019 R084, authorizing the 3rd-year extension of the shared service agreement with Hamilton Township for use of ecological facility for $75,000. 2019 R085, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional services agreement with Spiesel Architectural Group Incorporated to provide architectural services associated with the municipal building renovations for $8,500. 2019 R086, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional service agreement with Spiesel Architectural Group Incorporated to provide architectural services associated with a storage building at the Township Fire and Emergency Services Facility for $29,000. 2019 R087, authorizing the affordable housing attorney to record 14 declarations for affordable housing units in Windsor Haven. 2019 R088, authorizing the affordable housing attorney to record the amended affordable housing agreement, declarations of covenants, conditions, and restrictions on 13 affordable housing units at Windsor Haven. 2019 R089, authorizing bonding for rehabilitation and special needs programs if a shortfall occurs in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in accordance with the Township's Affordable Housing Program. 2019 R090, authorizing and directing the West Windsor Planning Board to conduct an investigation on Block 38, Lots 1, 2, 3, 25, and 45, and Block 39, Lots 4, 5, 7, 16, and 27, pursuant to NJSA 4812A-6 to determine whether the study area satisfies the criteria set forth in NJSA 4812A-5 to be designated as an area in need of redevelopment under the Redevelopment and Housing Law. 2019 R091, requesting the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Transportation to grant a 7-month extension of time for award of the project known as Alexander Road Reconstruction Phase 4. 2019 R092, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional service agreement with DeoTrek Environmental and Surveying LLC for miscellaneous engineering services for $5,000. 2019 R093, authorizing an increase of $5,500 to CDWG through New Jersey State Contract M000389851 for the procurement of VMware software and support and Sophos software and support for the Police Division. 2019 R094, authorizing the business administrator to purchase 25 hours of network support from StarNet Solutions Incorporated for the Police Division for $4,000. 2019 R095, authorizing an increase of $14,900 to SHI International through New Jersey State Contract M003898551 for the procurement of software licensing for time accounting program for the Department of Community Development.
Would anybody like to pull anything?
Please say no.
I would like to make a comment on 2019 R090, which is directing the planning board to conduct an investigation.
Alice, I wanted to make comment on the same one.
Well, why don't you make your comment first, and I'll add mine later.
Okay. Since I've become mayor, a lot of people come and meet me with various proposals, and I've always tried to upgrade the township. I told them as long as they don't bring school-age kids, they can talk to me. Otherwise, I don't talk their language. So this is one of the proposals. The entrance to West Windsor from Route 1 looks really not to our standard, and this is an opportunity for us to upgrade that and make it look better. So this is just a suggestion to the planning board to undertake the study whether this fits the bill, and if it does, we will develop it to make it worthy of being West Windsor piece.
If the planning board decides it fits the bill, we could have a nice little commercial bit there, and perhaps they can listen to what Ms. Jeevers just said about traffic cutting through the gas station and make that not so easy to do. I think that this would be an advantage to West Windsor if the planning board finds it to be. And I have a question for Jerry. Aren't one or two of these properties on the list of properties that we have that are substandard? And what would that do? That's the properties that we submitted to the port when we had to do the inventory.
I don't know whether they are, but in terms if there is an acquisition, demolition, I don't think it's going to have any impact.
Okay, so it won't hurt us at all if that, one or two of those properties becomes not a residential property. It won't matter at all.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
I had a quick question.
please ask it.
On 2019 R082, So it's, this is the one supporting an accurate 2020 census.
Yes.
It's an interesting resolution. Where did it come from? Who proposed it?
Well, it actually came from the state legislature, from our Assemblywoman Verlina Reynolds Jackson, and we did include the backup material in it. I think it's important that there be an accurate census in Mercer County, in New Jersey, in West Windsor, everywhere, and if we can, by passing this, send a message to our state legislatures, hey, we're watching, hey, we care, hey, we want to be fully counted, so that New Jersey gets its full funding and full number of representatives from the federal government. I think it would be helpful. At least it couldn't hurt, so.
Allison, am I missing something on that? I mean, the census is the census, isn't it? Aren't they just they're going to do the census? It's required every 10 years, and
Well, it seems like we're
why
asking.
are we doing a resolution on it? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, if you don't want to vote for it, don't vote for it, but we don't
No, I'm just asking, I just don't
Okay.
understand why we need to do it's not a resolution that carries any weight, right? It just sends a signal to them?
It
or
sends
it's-
us an important signal that we are watching and we care. And the fact is that we don't magically appear in the census. We have to be counted. There has to be a way of doing it. For instance, this year, the census is looking to send 80% of people a little card that says, get online and fill this out. Will that be an incentive or a disincentive? We don't know, but all of these things have to be studied, because having every census is slightly different. I know I've been through many, and every census has to be counted differently. I mean, the first one I remember, which was in 1950, which was before your time, somebody actually came to the door and said, how many people are here, how many people lived there? It's changed since then, getting somewhat more specific, but I do remember.
It was way
that.
before my time.
Yeah, well, okay, I was 4, but I still remember it. And I think that
Okay.
it's important that the census be conducted in an accurate and up-to-date way. And I think we should say so, that it's important to
For
us.
the record, I wasn't counted in that census.
For what? I'm sure you weren't.
Okay, let's get this
So
passed.
can we, do we have do we,
Just go right through the whole list.
okay. So do we have a motion for 082 through 095?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Misadera?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. We now have introduction of ordinances.
Okay, 2019 R14, an ordinance extending the affordability controls for an inclusionary development known as Windsor Haven.
Jerry, would you like to say anything about this?
Yeah, just to follow up on what I said earlier, there are three groups of affordable units in Windsor Haven with respect to extension controls. The first group of 14, those have already been extended by deed restrictions that were recorded when there were resales of units. And we've already dealt with that declaration, which basically extended them to 30 years from the end of the first control period, and that's pursuant to basically requests from the special master that it be handled that way. The second group of 13, we've dealt with Windsor Haven units where there was no resale and the filing of a new deed restriction, but the original deed restriction gave the municipality the right to extend the control. So that's what that does. And now there's a declaration that will be filed dealing with that. The reason for the declaration is so that if a title search is done, this is for the two declarations, it will be picked up that the control periods are still in effect. The last group of 10 should have had the same kind of deed restriction that was recorded for the 13 units in the second pile. Why that was not done, we do not know. We know this was being handled by what was then called AHMS, which was Affordable Housing Management Services, which we had contracted with in the Department of Community Services. And in fact, the deed restrictions in the second pile of 13, they were executed and recorded 6, 7, 8 years after the unit was originally occupied. We've checked with what is now called Housing Affordability Services, same thing, the name's been changed. They decided AHMS really wasn't a great name for that, and they just have no explanation of why this happened. For these 10 units, the same thing should have happened, but for reasons we don't know, it didn't happen. I don't know if the unit owners refused to sign them or something else happened, but we do have an ordinance which permits us to extend the controls, and we did this previously for Stewart's Watch, now Avalon Princeton Junction, where we extended the affordability controls on 103 affordable units for an additional 30 years, which, that was very beneficial because we didn't have to have an inclusionary development, which included market units, et cetera. So we're doing that for these 10 units. I have one suggestion with respect to the ordinance itself. On page 3, there's a whereas clause that starts, whereas an affordable...
Just a second.
Oh.
Ours starts on 187.
187.
Let us get there, 187.
So it would be this right here?
187,
Okay.
187 on the packet.
So Mike's...
Page 192 is page 3, okay.
Okay.
Hold on, don't go fast. Let me get to it. 192?
Yeah.
Okay, at the bottom?
The second whereas clause on that page, at least my pagination might be a little different, starts whereas an affordable housing agreement, semicolon, declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the 10 other West Windsor affordable units were not recorded for reasons unknown. Then
We
there's
should put in West Windsor, because it just says Windsor Haven affordable units here.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
But the sentence after that, a declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions of resale of affordable units prepared by the developer and recorded at book and page, provided for an original 30-year control period of such units. I would take that out. I'm not certain about the accuracy of that statement. It might be accurate. I'm not certain it is. There's no detriment if it's not in there, so I would just take out that sentence. Okay, you got that?
Also, where's the verb?
For that second sentence?
Yeah,
Well, it would be provides,
yeah, well,
right?
yeah, okay.
But in any event, that sentence would come out. Then the other thing that this ordinance does, it just confirms, in case there's any slippage with respect to the 14 and the 13, and I don't think there is, it confirms that by virtue of this ordinance, we're also extending the controls for those 14 and 13, although that's already been done. This is really belt and suspenders. So in case somebody says, oh, for one of these 13, that isn't, you didn't quite do it right here. So we put that in here as well.
Okay, that sounds sensible. Do I have any more questions, or do we have a motion to introduce?
I'd like to move to introduce 2019-R14.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Cheevers.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Mazzaro.
Yes.
Zhang.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Public hearing will be April 29th, 2019. 2019-R15, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of West Windsor, 1999, by modifying the E-District affordable housing requirement.
Now, Jerry, you did have...
I have a change, actually, two. I'm not sure what page this would be on.
Page 197.
Okay, 197. What is being amended is an ordinance that was adopted as part of a compliance plan settling Mount Laurel litigation in 1985, and then included the provision in the E-zone that says that 20% of the faculty, student, and staff residences have to be affordable housing. That might have made sense back then, although I really don't think it did. It doesn't make any sense now, because if you have affordable units which are not open to the general public, you can't get credit for them. So if you literally followed the requirements of the ordinance before it was amended, it would say that the university, when it builds faculty and staff housing, as well as housing for students, which would be this would be graduate student housing on the lakeside campus. That's what they're proposing at this point. 20% of them would have to be affordable, and we'd have deed restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. But they really don't make any sense, because certainly for the graduate students and postdocs, virtually all of them were in the low and moderate income category anyway, so we're really not accomplishing anything. We talked to the university about this, and we came up with something which we think has makes more sense, and that's what's in bold. Now, it starts under A2 for every. Now, Allison had trouble understanding this. The reason she had trouble understanding this was because a word was dropped out. And Allison actually suggested, why don't we just say 25% of the faculty and staff housing has to be affordable? I mean, the problem with that is that the 25% affordable aren't going to be faculty and staff housing, so that terminology really doesn't work. So what it's supposed to say, and here's the amendment, for every 3 faculty or staff residences developed, 1 affordable housing unit shall be developed. That mathematically is 25%. And I think that trying to explain what that all meant, I wrote after that, that being 25% of the total of the faculty and staff residences and the affordable housing required hereby. Rather than that, it might be a little clearer to say the affordable units. So after we say 1 affordable unit shall be developed, comma, the affordable units being 25% of the total of the faculty and staff residences and the affordable housing required hereby. So that's just a clarification. Obviously, the 3 is necessary because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Yeah, this was a little hard to read.
I know. I struggle with.
We had a long conversation earlier today.
I struggle with this a bit. And as I said, I started with the idea of just 25%, but it really didn't work because the affordable units were not faculty and staff. So this is the best I came up with. If anybody has any suggestions.
Well, it's just, I was thinking something like, for the total number of faculty and staff residences constructed, 25% of that number shall be deed restricted as affordable housing for a minimum of 30 years.
No, that's what we don't want to do, because that makes the affordable units faculty and staff housing, and they're not. That's the point.
See,
I know, okay.
As I understand it, Jerry, is this correct? The affordable units to count as affordable housing towards our quota has to be available to the general public. So even if there are faculty and staff who qualify for affordable housing and should be in Princeton University housing, they wouldn't count anyway.
They would count only if they got the unit through the regular process that Piazza and Associates goes through, which is advertising the unit. Yeah. Certainly, any faculty or staff member, I wouldn't expect it to be faculty, but maybe some staff members fit in the low and moderate income category, they apply. And the way it's usually done, if it turns out that they're eligible and they can get the unit, they get the unit.
But that's why we have to have the separation.
Exactly, yeah.
We have a comment from our planning board chair.
We're all together here, so you get the right wording. I want to ask a question of Jerry.
You got to go up here.
Please come up to the microphone so that everybody can hear you.
Give name, address, social security number, etc.
Serial
I hear an extraneous voice. Gene O'Brien, 13 Green Drive. But as chair of the planning board, which is likely to review this on Wednesday evening at our next meeting, I want to ask the question. At the beginning of the bold type, would there be any harm if we just put a period on the second line after the word developed and eliminate the language, that being 25% of the total of the faculty and staff residences and the affordable housing required hereby?
No, it would have, the requirement would be exactly the same. The only reason I added that was to kind of show that we're really talking about 25%, but we don't need to have it.
But you say 25% of the total faculty and staff residences. But when it goes off the campus, it's no longer going to be faculty and staff housing.
Well, it's never going to be faculty and staff housing.
Well,
The 25% is the total of the faculty and staff housing and the affordable housing wherever it's located.
But why is it necessary?
You don't need it. It was only to explain that we were really talking about 25%.
For me, it confuses it, because
Okay.
I'm going to argue that you can't have the faculty and staff off campus, but yet that's what it reads to me here.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't agree with that, but I think eliminating it, if it makes things clearer, it doesn't change the meaning, and I'm fine with eliminating it. And I hear Rich Goldman, who's the attorney for the university, saying eliminate it, I think.
Everyone on council understand what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, you're building a building. If you have a building, hypothetically, let's say it's 100 units, so the affordable housing would be 25%, so it's 25 units of that. But are you saying you're going to build the 25 units somewhere else? Not in that building, and it might not be on Princeton
Right,
University
exactly. And if it was a building of 100 units that were for faculty or staff, then they would have to build 33 units, either somewhere else in the E-zone or outside the E-zone, but acceptable to us, right? Because 100 plus 33 means that the number of affordable units that's coming out of this is 25%.
Well, yeah, I know.
Which would be 100, not 133.
Well, it would be 133 total with 100 faculty and staff and 33 affordable.
Where's the 33? 25%?
You're saying for every three affordable, or for every three faculty or staff, there should be one affordable. One plus three is four.
So if you
That's
had
100,
99.
75, and
Right,
25.
but I changed the hypothetical. If the building had 100 units for faculty and staff, to satisfy this, the university would have to provide an additional 33 affordable units.
33 and 1/3, yeah, one bedroom.
I understand that, but are we agreed that we're eliminating the clause that being 25% of the total of faculty and staff residents and the affordable housing hereby required?
That's fine with me, it's fine with the university, and unless members of council think otherwise, we could just eliminate it.
Can you
I
repeat
think
that?
it's fine to eliminate it if it's okay with the university, if it's okay with you, it's okay with
You want
Jim.
him to say so?
Yeah, would you like to come up and say something?
Thank you, Richard Goldman of Drinker Biddle and Wreath for the university. I don't, I just told Kevin on his way out, if he didn't speak, he couldn't bill. Thank you. This has been, first of all, a very cooperative and I think productive process. It sort of came apparent as we were studying to create our general development plan for the Lakeside campus in West Windsor, that the kind of interesting language in the E-zone for graduate student, faculty, staff housing, we ultimately learned with Jerry's help, it came out of this 1985 agreement. That was before COA was formed.
Yeah.
And in 1985, you could set aside graduate student housing as graduate students for affordable housing credits. You can't do that anymore. So basically there was an ordinance that provided no benefit for the town and frankly an unnecessary accounting headache for the university because we'd have to track graduate students. So we worked together to try to resolve the issue in a very fair way. And ultimately what we agreed, and I think is captured well in the ordinance that Jerry presented, was that for faculty and staff housing, like it is today, whether you have an ordinance or not, there would be a 25% set aside. And I think the easiest way to write that is for every three faculty and staff housing units, you have to provide one affordable. And that's because of the unique nature of a campus. And that's what I really wanted to mention tonight. We're not just a developer of apartment buildings or houses, we're a campus. You know, we have students, we have educational buildings, we have places to eat, facilities. It's a unique kind of environment. And so unlike setting aside 25% of units in an apartment building for affordable, you can't say that about a faculty housing building, because then you're saying you're setting aside 25% for faculty that are low and moderate income, but that provides no credit to West Windsor. It has to be open to the public pool. And so this language creates that hybrid. It allows us to build our faculty and staff housing, but the university wants to support affordable housing as well as any other resident of the community. And so we say, for every 3 of those that we build, we will have to provide 1 affordable unit. And the affordable unit is an open to the public unit. It's not an affordable unit of faculty and staff housing. The part that is a little unique, and I think one of you mentioned, well, does it have to be in that building or not in the building? Because it's a campus, we have to be a little cautious about how things fit together. We don't have parking by the apartments. The students park in fact, they have a central lot, and there's Tiger Transit. Most of them eat in a cafeteria. They don't, it's a very different environment. And so we requested at least the capacity to do, for example, what we did at Merwick Stanworth in Princeton. We built faculty staff housing at the Merwick Stanworth facility, the old Merwick care facility on Route 206. Much of that affordable housing, now that's off campus, so it's a little unique. Much of that facility has intermixed affordable housing, but some was also provided off-site through rehabilitation of units that Princeton wanted to have done. So we wanted to have that flexibility. It's important to us because we have to manage a campus. But other than that, I think actually taking out the phrase, I know what Jerry was trying to do. We were just trying to actually double explain to make sure it was clear. But I think it's pretty clear without that extra phrase.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everybody's efforts on this. We think it's a good outcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we want to get this right, too.
Jerry, at the very end, where it says affordable housing shall be provided on or off-site in a location and manner acceptable to the township, is that done at the time of site plan submission, when that would all be worked out?
Right, exactly.
Do you need to put that in, anything about
No,
that?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. And in the first line, number 2, residence exclusively for the faculty, students, and staff of higher learning. Do you need students? I mean, are we just talking about staff and faculty?
This is actually part of the permitted use section. So what's permitted in the zone, as well as educational facilities, are residences for faculty, students, and staff.
Okay, any other questions, or do we have a motion to introduce?
So I'd like to move to introduce 2019-R15.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jeevers?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Zara?
Yes.
Zhang?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Public hearing will be April 29th, 2019.
And Jerry, you'll have the new changes for the planning board, right? Whatever sentence was changed there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Additional public comment? I don't see anybody for additional public comment. Council reports. Linda?
Planning board meets this Wednesday, April 17th, to review the changes that we just approved to the E-District ordinance and to reconsider a resolution of memorialization on conditions for PB 18-01.
Okay. That it?
Yeah.
Aisha?
Nothing.
Virginia?
The Rec Commission met, and again, just wanted to remind everybody to register for summer programs. They have arts camps, sports, science, robotics, video production, dance, STEM and STEAM, chess, 3D printing, fencing, martial arts, and more. So go on the Township website, look under the Recreation Commission section, and register your kids for some really cool camps this summer. Also, I wanted to let everybody know about the Dive Into Summer event that's going to be on Wednesday, June 19th. The Rec Commission is helping us with that, and we just met this morning with Noreen to talk about using the pool, and it's going to be a fun event. We had the first one last year. This one, June 19th, it's a Wednesday from 5 to 8 p.m., just a big pool party. Parking Authority met, just again a reminder that the food truck is September 15th, so that put that on your calendars. And also the Parking Authority, just to give you guys a heads up, was approached by an organization that wants to put a cell tower on their property, and so they've presented a lot of information regarding that. If they do want to move forward with that, it would be something that would have to go through the zoning board and so forth. So if they do decide to do that, we'll hear a lot more about that in the future. And EMS has not met since we last met.
Thank you. YZ?
Actually, nothing to report. I missed the Environmental Commission because of out of town. I'm going to get the report from the committee and then report back next time. Thank you.
Actually, I went to the Environmental Commission, the end of the meeting anyway, and they're still working on getting all the points together so we can maintain our silver certification for Sustainable Jersey. They will be sending us, they hope by next week, a resolution authorizing the staff liaison to the Environmental Commission, which is Dan Dobromilski, to serve as West Windsor's agent for Sustainable Jersey municipal certification process. This was passed by the council last time they had to go through the process for certification. So we won't be doing anything new, but we will be doing something again, which was utterly necessary. And thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry. See you day after tomorrow.
So we should see that soon. And the Affordable Housing Committee did meet, and we are talking about how to spend the money as we are required to make affordable housing more affordable. We're looking at the people in the hamlet who were promised upgrades and are not getting them because the hamlet cannot afford, even with the great lot of help from the township, to upgrade the HVAC systems. We are looking at some kind of affordability help for people moving in to affordable units, and as we found out today, we will be looking at the electrical upgrades in Windsor Haven, which looks to me as a safety issue as well as an affordability issue, and I hope that staff will be looking at that, because the Affordable Housing Committee can't investigate the viability of electrical provisions. What would that be called? The electrical?
It's code.
But the actual physical engine, or whatever, that's the wrong word, but the actual
The connections.
connections. Well, anyway, you all know what I mean. So that's what they're doing. Administration updates? Stupid.
I have none.
Any? None?
None. I said
Okay.
that.
Then we do have a closed session to go to. So what I would like to do is have a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas NJSA 10-4-12 allows for a public body to go into closed session during a public meeting, and whereas the Township Council of West Windsor Township has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public, And whereas the regular meeting of this Township Council will reconvene, and whereas the below stated subject matter shall be made available at such time as the issues discussed therein are resolved, and its disclosure would not subvert any particular exceptions for convening a closed session. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Council, the Township of West Windsor, will go into closed session for the following reason as outlined in NJSA 10-4-12 for the discussion of contracts, legal contracts.